Right. The question on most people's minds is, does Code Veronica need a remake? Well, due to it being a really, really good game, I think, well, the answer to that is yes and no. We want a good game out of it, but we don't want a bad game. Um, because of how beloved it is, the story and whatever, certain things in it could have been better in Code Veronica. I think Tyrant could have been more of a threat instead of just a one chase thing. It could have been more of a chase monster. A couple of monsters as well, I think it could have actually been bosses. The Bandersnatch could have been another. Um, could have seen more of the others, like maybe like Nemesis showing up, which I think could really be more of a remake thing. If they did decide to put Nemesis in this, make it more one of those things. The other thing is, certain characters would have to have a bit more of a story. Wesker would have to have a bit more of a story into it, because he didn't really feel like he had much of a story in this one. Um, Steve definitely needs more of a story. He didn't have much, well, in his story. Um, it was more of a waste, really. Even though most people say he was a bit whiny. Well, he could be, but I could see where he was coming from, and losing his father. Um, the thing is with that is, I think if they made him a bit more heroic, he wouldn't have been, well, he wouldn't have been much whiny, but he would have still had that similar personality he would have had. Um, and he would have still probably whinged about his dad, because that happens with the family. And a couple of other things really that basically would stand out is, maybe they could have made Steve's father actual Tyrant. Tyrant could have actually been Steve's father, but experimented on. Um, Maybe in the remake version, which could be more interesting because then Tyrant has more of a plot. Also, Steve would have had more of a plot if the remake was done. He would have probably had more of a mutation. Like his mutation would have been better because then you would have had more of a boss fight with him. Also, maybe like a choice option of like him either dying or living, depending on your choices with him. Now, I think if you had basically just left him in the cell, didn't bother just moving with him, he probably would have just died in that cell. Now, I think if you did stay with Steve to the end, again, if this was done in the remake, Steve would have probably mutated right in the end. Well, he was injected anyway, and he would have fought Alexia. Now, that would have been a brilliant fight to watch because it would show that he's more heroic. He would have fought for Claire's life, and he would have died in the process as a hero. Now, I think that would have been the best story for him, to die as a character, and prove more of a plot in the story, which would be more interesting. So that would be better for him. So that's the best thing I can really think. A couple of monsters I think would have to return to the remake. Like the boss spiders. like the boss spider, right? One of the sections, the big black spider, that would have to return. Naratu would have to return. He's actually interesting to the story, because again he's the Ashford's father. Well, not real father, but adopted. Well, their adopted father. So a couple of other things I think could make it in. Maybe the Bandersnatch could be more of a boss. The boss would definitely be more of a thing because the Bandersnatch was a pain in the game. This game, even though I love the game, it's always a bit too hard for me to play. Because of everything in it. And I really think it could work with the less Bandersnatch in it. It wouldn't be much of a problem. So yeah. I also think he could work in third person, but out of the moment, I don't really trust some teams, the ones that aren't really well, don't really do a good job. I mean, we already know the ones that did the RE3 remake. They sucked. Yeah, they sucked with the RE3 remake. M2, by the way, do not touch Code Veronica if you come to this. Because if you touch Code Veronica, people will be pissed. Yeah, really pissed. So the only ones I trust at the moment to touch Code Veronica is Dev1 at this point. They did really well with the RE2 remake and could actually surprise everyone with Code Veronica. Since the actors would actually come back to perform the role, and most enemies would definitely make a return. Now, the enemies I definitely would basically think would return if Dev1 did do Code Veronica. Most likely, Nosferatu would definitely return. Tyrant would probably either, 50%, he would either be replaced with Nemesis or he would just be there just a little bit longer, I think. But as a chasing monster. Now, I don't think he'd be there most of the time because Tyrant wouldn't really chase through the whole game. Now, I think most of the other monsters that probably use as chasing monsters would be none other than Alexia. Now, Alexia would be the end. Excuse me for a sec. Oh! Yeah. Right, so, pretty much, Lexi would be more of a chasing monster near the end. So she would chase probably near the end of the fights and such. That would be pretty much it. Maybe is Chris, Nemesis would be a threat, and Chris maybe in that way. Then he has someone to chase him. So then everyone has someone to chase them. I think the black spider might either be cut or might make a return. Since it's not really a threat, because you can avoid the black spider and you don't really have to fight it. They might really cut it off, kind of like the moth in the RE2 and such. They cut that out. Probably because they thought, well, it wasn't much of a threat. They thought, well, not much of a fight with it, so they thought we'll cut it out. Now, I think the spiders would probably cut. I'm most likely thinking that we cut. Now if they do manage to put the spiders in, then that would be great. The other things I think might be mostly cut is the crows, and the bats. They would be cut too because they wouldn't actually come into it. The dogs, on the other hand, would make a return. Maybe the monsters, like the Crimson Heads might actually make a return in the game, since they would be brilliant and putting the fear into people on this game. So that's a bunch of others, plus familiar music, making a return. Also, maybe Alfred Ashford having an actual boss fight for a change. Like having more into it so that he has more of a fight and maybe mutates, and you have to fight him. So the game would be longer. Now, I think the hunters would most likely return, since the hunters are more of a threat due to Wesker, and Wesker would most likely get them to hunt whoever down. Now, that would be interesting. Now, the other things I think might be cut, since it'd be a big issue, is the Gravediggers. Now, the Gravediggers are big in Code Veronica, since there's so many, but I really think they should be at an actual boss fight instead of all over the place. So I think that's basically what should happen with them in the remake, if it ever gets touched. So I really hope this gets out there, and well, Capcom basically see this review and think, okay, that's what it is. We don't want to mess it up. We want it to be great. And to bring the fans in, but the only ones that do care is Dev 1 at this point. So Dev 1 might actually bring some enemies in or whatever. I hope they don't change the outfits too much of the characters, otherwise it would ruin the characters. So yeah, pretty much that's actually they're basically my comments on it. What I think should be changed, what should be changed, what shouldn't be changed. So yeah, so the game pretty much holds up well, but still would be in person, I think. So then it feels a bit easier to deal with enemies. So I also hope they bring these item boxes and such, and that's it. So anyway, that's the another my review and comments about why they should make a remake. So yeah, so that's pretty much it at this point. And I know that's my review about the game. I will be actually doing more reviews on the other games like Outbreaks 1 and 2 and such. Keep an eye out for them. I also will be doing like other like Final Fantasy games and such, and reviews about them, and certain things I liked about them, certain things like some game would probably get a remake or whatever, stuff like that. So yeah. So anyway, that's thanks for stopping in for the review of Code Veronica, and yeah.